Hi, Drew. How's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I just really want to thank you for taking the time, out of your busy day to come talk with us on the Next Gen Podcast today. For those of you listening, welcome back. My name's Dorian, and it's really nice to finally meet you. It's always cool to research someone and then finally get the chance to actually talk with them because, you're like this big celebrity to me now. But now I actually get the chance to sit down and talk with you. So would you mind just introducing yourself and Crippling Hot Sauce so the people at home can get to know you?
Yeah, my name's Drew. I'm 19 years old. I started Crippling Hot Sauce at age 16 from a school project in which I got a bad grade on and my teacher deemed unrealistic, so I kind of used that motivation, launched the brand, and last year alone we sold over 250,000 bottles, all while supporting people with disabilities, and 5% back with every bottle sold.
That's awesome. I can tell that you've rehearsed this before. That was a solid top to bottom of what you've been doing for the past. And you kind of touched on it a bit here, but just the origin story of Crippling Hot Sauce and this school project. Can you go a little bit more in depth to that?
Yeah, for sure. Like a little bit of backstory. I grew up in a small town in Missouri, and at age 14 I weighed 300 pounds, and my doctor said I was going to be bedridden by age 18 if I didn't make a change, and nobody thought I was going to be able to lose weight. But right before COVID, I said, you know what, watch me, and I ended up losing 150 pounds over that year. So through that, I really got into hot sauce, with it being, the lowest calorie condiment on the market. And so year after that, I had a school project that was due for a Christmas midterm, and it was due in 2 days. And I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? I was always known for making fun of myself and my situation. And so I look down, I look at myself, I'm like, I like hot sauce and I like making fun of myself. Let's do Crippling Hot Sauce, with the mission to kind of rewrite people's perspective around the disabled community and show no matter your situation, anything is possible. I presented it. 2 weeks later, I get the grade back. It's 82%, and while that's good, for most people, is less than stellar for me at the time. So I was wondering why, and I went up to the teacher at the time, asked him why, and he's like, oh no, I thought it was a great idea, just didn't think you could do it, and for whatever reason, that really struck a fire under me. So I went home, did some research, and 8 months after that, launched, and I haven't looked back ever since.
I like it. And I can tell you now that your product is worth more than a B, more than an 82% in my eyes. Can you talk to me just about, the first hot sauce that was produced, and how has that sort of altered from what you do now? What was that first sort of beta prototype looking like?
Yeah, so when I obviously first started testing recipes, I actually started handmade. The first 50 recipes that I attempted were just in mason jars, and I used a cheap blender from Walmart to kind of throw ingredients together that I had in the fridge, and then every recipe after that got better and better, and I kind of learned what to do from there. Let me tell you, if there's anything I learned, with repetition, you can learn how to do anything. After 40, 50 tries, I came up with 3 that were good. And what's kind of unique about me, I actually came up with the flavor names before the sauces.
Can you talk about the emphasis and importance of research during that time? Just trying to start out from being someone who enjoys hot sauce to someone who actually is able to produce it.
Yeah, I think like I said, research is important. People always think you have to come up with some groundbreaking way to make something, which I did. But what I actually did was research how to make the base to a hot sauce, and then tweaked it from there and added some unique ingredients and went from there. I think why people also make entrepreneurship hard in areas that are technically the easiest, probably. Especially in a thing like food. For 99% of brands, what kind of separates you from the pack is your mission and your branding. And so for hot sauce specifically, there's thousands of different recipes, and you'll have your own little unique spin. But for most people, like, how you really build brand and a following and have customer retention is like what you do with your brand, with your sauces you create. Like for us, like it's donating to the disabled community and really kind of showing people what people in the disabled community are capable of. And so that is really the most important part when like above the research. And of course having a good product is important, but there's plenty of brands with like a great product that have, whether it be subpar marketing or mission, that aren't able to get off the ground. So above all else, that's actually the most important.
It's really interesting you mentioned that as well, because that's something that's come up a lot with other people that I've interviewed, is just sort of this, importance of networking and like how you present yourself and what you do just outside of the product. And I love that you mentioned sort of like, giving back. How are some of the ways that you give back? Like what are some of the foundations or something that you would use like that?
Okay, so mainly a lot of it right now is going to the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. It's like one of the largest like groups that like search for ways to give like basically improve the lives of people with cerebral palsy, which is the most common physical disability.
Talk about those first times that you were sort of pitching to production, I don't know, facilities, I suppose, and production companies, and how did you sort of find what manufacturers would work best for you? Was it a scary experience? Was it exciting?
Honestly, if you want the true entrepreneurial pitch, it honestly takes trial and error on that too. So it's taken us up until this point. We have good partners now, but the first 2 years was all trial and error. Sometimes, like we try to manufacture and they were subpar, and so you just gotta know that, like, when to cut your losses and move on and try somebody better.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that you mention sort of like the failures that come with it, especially in the early phases of entrepreneurship. Can you talk about, just like the first big failure, the first big moment where you're like, oh, I really messed up in your journey?
Well, not really like my failure, but I remember like one of our first like big manufacturing runs. Like I got one of our first ever retailers. Like you get excited and you go to launch. This was 3-4 years ago at this point. You get excited, you're launching in your first retailer. You deliver product, and then the true story, you get a call. A month, like a week later, that for some reason some of your bottles, are still fermenting in the bottle, and some of them are exploding. And being a food product, hearing something like that is a little scary. So, like, you're like, what the hell happened? And then that's when you learn, like, they didn't, boil the product at the right temperature to stop fermentation. And fermentation is it helps bring out the flavor profile more, and so you're like, damn. And so that was like my first like big like whoopsies. Other than that, like even when I was making it home, I remember like the first bottles I ever created didn't even have like a flavor name, or even like it didn't even say if it was mild, medium, or hot on it. I literally just like took it to a farmer's market, and people were like, is this one mild, medium? I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I gotta put that in, because like some of that stuff, especially when you're young like I was, that's just not something you always think about. Even to this day, we've been, kind of at a healthy point as far as like branding and stuff for the last, 18 to 24 months, but it definitely took 12 to 18 months to get everything like actual, like prepared, but the like actual to a point where like you're completely happy with it. And even then you're never really 100% happy. But the number one thing is like when you launch, not everything, especially your first go around, is gonna be absolutely perfect, but the number one thing is that you get in the ring, because a lot of people try to keep pushing something off until it's perfect, and they never end up doing.
Sort of like segueing into a totally different thing, because we sort of looked at the early stages of business. Now we're looking at more modern business. How did you go from like the idea to this actual product within the market? What were some of the initial first steps you took? So your teacher gives you this 82. What's the absolute first thing you did?
Actually, first thing I did was like, obviously, research how to make it. After that, I already knew the name, went and got the trademark. Then I researched, who I wanted to donate to, and then after that, I hit up my cousin that just so happens to be a graphic designer, and I was like, yo, make me a logo. This is kind of what I'm thinking, and that's the logo we have now. And then from there was just kind of hitting the streets and kind of getting people to try those samples. And then after we kind of got the trademark done and the logo trademarked, and then when we were ready to launch, I did a website. And then from there, the first 12 months was just me hitting the streets at like festivals and stuff. After that was after those 12 months of getting thousands of people to try it and meeting thousands of people, then, started launching in retailers. And even then, like, nowadays, like, after those first initial retailers, I learned that, like, retail is, like, a later stage move. Like, I still have those same retailers and we're doing well, but I haven't pushed past those main retailers, mainly because of profitability. And nowadays I focus 100% on basically D2C for now and really getting the story out there, and we'll mainly push through ads and stuff like that, organic.
You mentioned earlier the help from like your cousin helping design the logo for the brand. Can you talk about just the role that your family played in this experience? Like, what were their first reactions to when you're like, I want to start my own hot sauce business?
Yeah, I mean, from the beginning, my family has been supportive for the most part. I mean, growing up in a small town with not much entrepreneurship, a lot of them were still like, what the hell are you doing? But at least they were like questioning it as they were helping me. My cousin, who now works for me, that designed this for free at the time, always kind of helped me. Then my other cousin, who's kind of has been in the business world since he was young as well, like always supported me. And then my other family that like didn't have hands-on business experience, like my dad's a truck driver, my mom's a parole officer, they helped where they could with like labor and driving me places and stuff like that. So my whole family kind of stepped in.
And I feel like, you mentioned before just this importance of the farmers market. And I love the sense of camaraderie that comes with that, with people helping each other out. Every time I go to the farmers market, I always see people giving each other free samples and stuff like that. I really love that. Can you talk a bit about, just sort of that level of business and the farmers market for anyone who's interested in starting a food-based product or company?
Samples are going to be the number one thing for you. Even like having ads is great, but at the end of the day, when you have a food product, people are going to want to know, is this good? You can't tell if it's good from a Facebook ad, you're guessing. But guess what? If somebody gets to meet you, talk to you, try your product, get to know you a little bit, they're much more likely to be a lifetime customer.
Who are some entrepreneurs or business leaders that inspire you personally?
Me personally, for me, it's 100%, the people like that don't give a shit personalities, your Gary V's, your Dave Portnoy of the world. Those are the guys that really, like, I love the guys that like don't give a crap about like social norms, corporate norms. They're just doing them.
And finally, what is your ultimate vision for your brand and your entrepreneurship journey? What do you want your legacy to be with Crippling Hot Sauce?
I don't know, like I said, I just want to be that the champion for the disabled community. I want, to look back and be like, I really cultivated change in the disabled community, because right now there's not ADA accessible seats on planes. There's not, a lot of the stuff that a lot of us need for success. So I want to look back and be like, man, because of this product, we were able to make this much change and donate this much back to the community.
Well, Drew, that's pretty much all I have for you question-wise today. Do you want to tell us where we can get and find some of your amazing products?
Yep, thecripplingcompany.com.
Awesome. All right, well, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, Drew, for taking the time to talk with us today. I really appreciate how honest and thoughtful your answers were. I feel like you answered a lot of the stuff, the best that I've ever heard it realistically, and just the amount of honesty that you were allowing, and vulnerability you're allowing us to get from you here. Just really appreciate it. For anyone listening at home, thanks so much for listening to the Next Gen Podcast. Please subscribe and follow up with us at Pitch Labs. So have a great day, and I wish you all the best in the future endeavors and in the future months to come with this big secret project.